We are absolutely capable of a lot more than we think. It doesn't mean everyone could be Olympians, doesn't mean everyone could be national champions, but I think everyone could be a little bit better. This camp that I go to every year in upstate New York, and I always speak out, work out, have a great time. One of the coaches there once told me, he goes, "You think everybody can be good, Sean?" I go, "You know what? I think everyone could be."
I'm so excited to welcome Sean Brosnan to the B.rad podcast. He is the author of a book called Beyond Fast: How a Renegade Coach and His Unlikely High School Team Revolutionized Distance Running, written with Lear, Andrew Grefe. And yes, it's a book about running and high school running, and you get the blow-by-blow of the workouts and the races and the championships, but it's so much more. It was so far beyond my expectation. Of course, I'm looking forward to reading it as a running geek, as Sean called us at the start of the show, but it is for everyone interested in peak performance of any kind and shattering self-limiting beliefs and dreaming and committing and being disciplined. So you're really, really going to love this conversation with a really special guy who's one of the top distance running coaches in America, the world. He's now moving on to the professional ranks, and you'll hear about that toward the end of the show. So let me introduce him with this quick intro, and then you're going to get hit with a real peak performer with some really amazing and thought-provoking insights. Sean Brosnan is a two-time National High School Coach of the Year who built the Newbury Park High School distance squads into an award-winning national powerhouse. In addition to his national titles, he led him to a bunch of state titles. He comes from New York, and he broke into coaching with a variety of different positions. We didn't cover this enough in the show, but he had this vagabond, apparently decade of his life where he was chasing his own running goals. He almost broke 4 minutes in the mile, but he learned and absorbed from some of the great coaches in American history and took in all this information, molded it, shaped it into his own unique approach. And he showed up at this random high school in Newbury Park, California, right near where I grew up in Los Angeles. And boy, did he work some magic and achieve things that have never before been even approached. It is for sure the greatest high school athletic team of all time in any sport, the team that he built with Newbury Park High School. In Beyond Fast, he shares the inside story of a group that hadn't even qualified for local championships and how he took them to the national title. He also didn't have many coaching credentials, but what he did have was an unshakable belief in the power of commitment. Within a few years, the belief materialized into something few could have predicted with these national titles. With a voice both humble and electrifying, Brosnan charts the team's journey from underdogs to champions and brings readers into the inner workings of high-stakes competition, the personal sacrifices of young athletes, and the emotional toll of greatness. In this inspiring chronicle, Beyond Fast is a must-read, and this interview is definitely a must-watch, must-listen. I know you're going to enjoy it, even if you're not a running geek. Here's a beautiful quote that I got from the book, and I think it's going to set the tone for this great conversation that we have. So Sean says, "It's essential to stop placing limitations on ourselves. I believe we need to break free from the boundaries we or others set for us and strive to accomplish things that we once deemed impossible." Here we go with Sean Brosnan, author of Beyond Fast. Sean Brosnan, the author of Beyond Fast. I'm so excited to join you and get into this incredible, amazing story that you chronicled in your new book, Beyond Fast. So thanks a lot for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about it.
So you're an old-time runner, a coach, and then all of a sudden you decide to write a book, and that's an entirely different experience, I suppose. So how is the book launch going and all the things that have been happening since this thing dropped?
It's going well. It's funny because after I left Newbury Park, I was at UCLA real quick for about a year, and I thought about writing a book then. And then when I left UCLA, it was like, okay, this is my time. This is when I have to do it. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do this again. And I just teamed up with some really good people. Chris and Andrew Greif and Lear, of course, who wrote Running with the Buffaloes. And, I'm excited to get it out there. And as we talked even a little bit before we went on air, I didn't want to make this book like a running book for runners only. I understand there's a lot of running in it and training, and I think the running like nerd or geek will get that out of it. But I wanted it to make this just more than a running book, and that's what I've always envisioned, and hopefully I did that. So
Yeah, did a fantastic job, I have to say, and I can qualify as the running geek, especially because as a high school runner, very close to Newbury Park, as a matter of fact, at Taft High in Woodland Hills, we were so excited. Me and my old teammates, 40 years later, like sending text messages in 2019, going, "Did you see what these guys at Newbury Park are doing? That's amazing!" So the book was definitely going in deep with the chronicling of the development of the program there, but you wove in all these really beautiful insights. So even if listeners, viewers are not not even runners, just the idea of believing in a mission and believing in yourself as an individual for any form of peak performance, it was really stunning because I'm still trying to figure out. I finished the book. We talk about it incessantly with my old running buddies, but we're still trying to figure out how the heck you pulled this magic trick off of going to some random high school, really didn't have much tradition. Although in 1982, when I was racing, Newbury Park Denise Ball, I think was number 2 in the nation in the
yeah,
3200.
yeah.
I don't know if you even heard of her,
Yep, I do. I
but
do. Yeah, she
yeah,
was
she
very
was
good.
throwing
Yeah.
down. Yeah, yeah. But really, you showed up at this place and turned it into the greatest high school athletic team of all time in any sport. I think that's difficult to dispute. Maybe the guys at De La Salle, the football powerhouse, could try to match up to the skinny 127-pound Newbury Park runners and say, no, we were a better program than Newbury Park. But it was really a generational accomplishment there at the school. And I think I should start off the show sort of with a bang and have us jump right into it was the 2021 Running Lane National High School Cross Country Championships in Alabama. Um, so this is a gathering of the best teams and the best individual runners from all over the place.
Yeah.
And we had this standing high school cross country record time from Dathan Ritzenheim, who went on to be Olympic marathon runner and was one of the most prominent coaches in the world now. I had a great showing with his athletes at World Championships.
Yeah.
So Ritzenheim is holding on to this record for 2 decades. And I'd love for you to take us through what happened at that meet when Newbury Park headed out to Alabama to culminate their season.
Yeah, I mean that was probably our biggest, I'd say, most famous year of what we did as a team, not just even individuals. In 2019, we won the national championship with Nico Young, who's one of the best runners in the world now. When he won the individual national championship, we won the team championship, and then we kind of went into COVID, which was crazy. And it just threw everything for a loop. But we managed, or I was able to manage. We were still able to run. We were able to use that as a positive, not a negative, and train. And I think almost for the better because we focused on training, not racing, and a lot of things that I believe in as a coach. But 2021, it was one of those things. It was like we were so happy to be running again. We were so happy to like show what we can do. And it's just the way I've always been. And like my influence coaches and people that I've been around, it's like, my college coach, Damian Martin from Adams State, was to me one of the best motivating coaches out there. He still coaches now. He has like some probably the most NCAA titles, even though it's Division II. He still does an amazing job. And I always wanted to be that light, like as a coach, and like have that motivation power. And we went in at 21, like, let's not break records. Let's destroy them. Like, let's rewrite the record books. Let's do like, we were talking about going 1, 2, 3, 4 at the national championship, and everyone's like, they just thought I was crazy. I mean, we ended up going 1, 2, 3, 6, and I had 3 guys on the same team break Dathan's national cross country record. And he's been amazing, by the way. Every time I used to see him, I still see him now, but like when I was at Newbury, he would always be super complimentary and like just an awesome person. And like, just all about like, yeah, break my record, not like, some people get weird about that stuff, but he's always been amazing. I think that's why he's probably one of the best coaches out there. And yeah, we went into this thing and it was like I don't know, it's just, I mean, if you read the book, I talk about a lot, like a lot of it's mindset, a lot of my influential coaches that I've learned from, it's like I always say the human body is capable of more than, I mean, I've got this from a famous runner, Ryan Hall said this once. So it's like the human body is capable of so much more than you think. And like, it doesn't mean we have to like grind and kill these high school kids. That's not what it's about, but it's about like progressing properly, belief, building this culture that's just unbelievable, and you don't falter. And like, that's what we did. And we went into 21, and I think before we had the record, the national high school average record was 15 flat for a 5K, and we brought it down to 14-14 average. And I think there's only been a few schools ever to go under 15 to this day, but we just destroyed it. And yeah, that was our season. And it was an amazing time. And it was led by Colin Solomon, who's one of the best NCAA runners at NAU right now as a senior. And he led that team to what I think was probably one of the greatest high school performances ever in high school sports. So
Yeah, for the lay person listening, what we're talking about is kids from the same high school beating the greatest runners of all time from across the country for 2 decades, and that was, mind-blowing. And you mentioned a few of your stars who are excelling on the world stage, the NCAA stage, but I think overlooked a little bit was a plug for the competency of the entire team and how many of these kids were running at what's really an elite level. Maybe you could tell me that anecdote that I laughed out loud reading the book when the kid went into the JV race. Was it a Woodbridge Invitational or something? And destroyed everybody by a couple minutes. And for those unfamiliar with like high school running, you have varsity, who are the best guys from every school, and then you have JV, which are the kids that aren't fast enough to make the top 7 at their school. And there's sometimes accusations when you see a kid running really fast at JV that, oh, that school put him in there so he could win, even though he's really fast and should be racing in the varsity. But you had such depth on your varsity team, 14-14 average, for example, that what do you do with the kid who's not in the top 7? You throw him in the JV.
yeah, it was actually difficult because, we had kids running, close to breaking 15 minutes, which is, for high school, pretty high national level that were running JV. I had kids that were running under 420 in the mile that weren't close to making our top 7. And even on the girls' side, I didn't coach the girls the first couple years at Newbury. Then we had a coach leave, and I took over the girls' program. We ended up being state champs there too. We were ranked top 10 in the country and so forth. Actually broke a national record in a relay and just had some really good times. But like, I got accused once at a local meet of doing exactly what you say, putting a girl in the JV race that didn't belong there. And then it went all the way to my principal. I'm like, she's my 8th runner. Like, she didn't qualify. I don't know what do you want me to do? And like that, they threw it out right away. But like, they literally tried to say that I was like, sandbagging some. I was like, no, that's where unfortunately, she didn't make our varsity team. And it was the same with the guys was worse. But it's one of those things where I thought that was going to come back to haunt us, where you have a certain kid who's just like, it's destroying them not to make varsity. But like, we had really good culture where these kids were like proud to be 9th on the team. And I was surprised. Like, they did their job. I mean, we had some guys that just, they never complained. They showed up. They worked just as hard as Lex, Leo, Colin, Aaron, my top guys at the time in 21, Nico, Jace. Those are all like my top guys I've run with. And they never complained, and they never put a varsity uniform on. And like, that says something. And I think that says a lot. And like, to me, it's like, when that was happening, I was like, man, this is right. Like, we have the right leadership, we have the right culture. And like, that's, I think, why we succeeded. And there was no animosity towards any of it that I ever saw. Maybe there was on the inside a little bit, but like, it was really cool to see like a kid who's your 10th man, like proud to run for Newbury Park regardless. And that was something special. So.
Yeah, it's healthy competitiveness, and I think the kids who are attracted to endurance running in high school are a special breed anyway. Usually they have like the highest GPAs, and they're very focused and driven and kind and respectful and humble. Generally speaking, we've had a few cocky athletes come through the mix who are also entertaining, but obviously the person at the top of the program is fostering this camaraderie and this respectful culture. But at the same time, like I watched the videos from the Running Lane National Championships, and Colin and Leo and Lex weren't holding hands; they were sprinting to the finish and 1 second apart. So these guys are, the top runners in the nation. It's not patty cake and cotton candy at the finish. They're trying to win instead of get second. Even the twins, and that's pretty awesome too, because you know that that can get out of hand at times when you have egos and teammates clashing, especially when you guys have that rock star status where you had to get like security around the tent at the cross country meet. Hilarious stuff. I wish I'd seen that in person, but I was reading about it all the way along, going, "Wow, look at this."
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Colin won the national championship in 2021, was Gatorade Athlete of the Year. He actually is the only runner, track and field across country, to ever get National Player of the Year out of all sports. Like he won the big award and he won cross country because like of what he did. And the funny thing is that cross country season, he wasn't undefeated like Nico was. He actually lost one race and he was fourth, but it was to his three teammates, to his brother and Lex and Leo. And like, I remember that race and I talk about it in the book. It was like, how do you talk him off a cliff? Because here's this guy supposed to be the best in the country. And he's like, I just got fourth place. Like, this is crazy, to his own teammates, And it's so we always joked and said, all right, with 800 to go, it's every man for himself. Like you go for it, because you could only give him so much advice. And at Running Lane, I think we had about 600 meters to go. I forget exactly where it was. And I just was like, you guys got to let it go. And like, I mean, because we still had some guys on us and I knew what they were capable of. And they just took off and they dropped everyone. Aaron paid the price because he led most of the race. And I think that's why he was sixth and not, hopefully, I was hoping he could have got fourth. But yeah, I think they did a really good job of, I always say this, take my guys out of it. It's like, if you're not the person, like even at any athlete, I get we're competitive and I sometimes I like that cockiness in athletes and like the confidence, maybe not cockiness, but the confidence. And like you have to be happy for your teammates, your peers, because if you're the person that like, you know, regrets that other person for doing better than you, I don't think ultimately you're going to do well. I really don't. It's okay to be happy for someone and want to still beat them. And like, I think they did a good job at that. And I think that's why another reason why we were able to succeed.
Yeah, that's really important because we see so many examples, especially with the massive explosion in popularity in modern sports and the digital age. We see a lot of examples of what I would consider to be, misplaced competitive intensity, where the fans are obsessed with the team winning, or even in the individual sports, and then it's a tragedy when you fall short and the athlete falls apart. And it's kind of like there's a lot of ridiculous energy in there that is really not what makes a true champion. And even at, I think, your high school level, you condition these kids to be healthy competitors rather than, get too stuck on themselves. And pretty humbling for the Gatorade National Athlete of the Year to get fourth in some race, but it's all healthy if you make it so, rather than having get off track, which is so easy to happen when the bigger the stakes get, really.
Yeah, I mean, everyone always says, and I know it's cliche, it's like, you learn who you are as an athlete, or like it's what you do in the bad times, not the good times. And it's true, it is. And it's as crazy as that sounds, it's like you got to kind of step back. It's like I always tell my guys, listen, you go cool down, like whatever it is, the 2 mile cool down, be mad, get pissed off. But when you come back, let's figure it out. And like, that's what I always would say. It's like, because otherwise, like, what are you doing? You're just putting all this negative energy into you. You'll never figure it out. And like, I don't know. Again, we did a really good job with that. And I think people were excited to be part of our program because they saw the excitement. They saw when we showed up to races, people were like trying to take pictures or, all this different stuff that was happening, lining up at our tent. And I think it just created a cool atmosphere. And we definitely leaned into it and said, okay, let's make this even like more fun than it could be. And like parents would like taken back. They were like, "Oh my gosh, like this is insane." When we go to races, and I talk about in the book too, when we went to a race in New York, it's like it got so crazy they put us in like a back room. Like we couldn't even hang out in the stands at the Armory and the indoor national championships. And I mean, it's happened to a lot of like even modern athletes that are on top in high school now. It's just the way things are, I guess, today. But yeah, it was fun, and I think they did a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's funny because, like I said, I competed in the '80s when the distance runners were entirely overlooked, and it was all about the football team on campus. And I can't even imagine like going on a website and seeing my name as the 17th ranked Southern California thing, with my own following and my own account. So it seems like it's a lot for the kids to handle, and maybe some of that stuff is a little overblown. Like when I show up at a high school track to do a workout today, and you see like the 5 foot by 7 foot banners of the kids lining the thing. But it's also kind of cool to celebrate how hard the athletes are working. And I thought like all the notoriety you guys got was fantastic for the sport of endurance running. And the school of little Newbury Park High School, and especially how you were breaking through these barriers and showing what was possible when you get this all in commitment and dedication. So I guess I'm going to transition to asking you about that, because that seemed like one of the magic pieces of the formula. There was a passage in the book where, hey, every summer the team goes up to the mountains for a week, which is super common. I used to go to Mammoth a lot in the summer, and you'd see 35 different high school teams there with their vans getting out and doing a workout and having so much fun. And then, like in the book, you're writing about, yeah, that was great going up to Big Bear for the week. And then you realize, no, we need to go for an entire month. And then you had to go pitch that to the parents and sell hard using your sales skills from
Yeah.
that brief career in sales. So let me talk as I'm setting up this tee up for you, how that went to kind of create that all in, full buy-in mentality for the kids' families, and then of course for yourself too.
Yeah, I wanted to always do things differently, I guess. Not for this the point of doing differently, but like, hey, how can we get better? We had won the state meet in 2018, and we were sixth at the national championship, our first time qualifying for the national championship, and everyone thought that was good, and it was a solid performance. Yeah,
You started in 2016.
yeah, it's 2016.
You
Yeah.
walked in. I know you had a 5'1", 95-pound freshman who was pretty good. It went on to we saw him just in the Olympics and the World Championships last week, Nico Young. But you went from that to state champions in 2 seasons.
Right. So, well, I mean, I think ultimately was so 16, 17, 18 was the third season we won. And I talk about that too. I always said we're going to win a title in 4 years. We won one in three. So in my head, I'm going, okay, how do we win a national championship? But hey, they're high school kids. So let's not destroy these kids. I'm not a program, and I'm not going to name ones, but I know that do it. They run 8 miles in the morning, 8 in the afternoon. And it's just, they just grind these kids. And it's all about mileage. And like, I just didn't want to do that. To me, it's all about progression. I do a lot of different type of stuff for my training. So I said, what do I do? So I said, you do get a benefit from going to altitude, but going for a month can create this team unity. So I was like, how do I sell this to these parents? And that was what the goal was. It was February, I think, of 2019. So we had just won the state title a few months before that. We hadn't even started track yet, outdoor track, and we were doing some indoor training. We have a club we run under because we have no indoor season in California. I said, let's go for a month. And I proposed it. And most of them said no. And, the joke in the book was I had one parent say, oh, you could have my son for the whole summer. It was like, but it broke the ice. And they were all laughing. And then they were just like, I don't know. And then I said, listen, we're going to have a spare room in the house. All parents are welcome at any time. I'm going to make this cheap for you. I mean, it ended up costing me and my wife, and we had to raise money and do some different things, but it was like I knew what we were doing, and I was like, if I can just convince them and not have this huge price tag, because again, the rumor is, oh, they're from Newbury Park. Everyone has all this money they can pay for it. No, we had kids that couldn't pay. I had parents that paid for other kids. We'd raised money. We were able to do it and do it fairly cheap. So I did have the month camp for the boys. We got 12 to go, And ironically, we won the national championship the next year. Now, is it because of the month camp? No, but it's a piece of the puzzle, and it created a lot of unity with our team, and it created a mindset that that's what I wanted. That was the point of that, and I was like, let's do like, why not think outside the box? Again, that's always I'm always trying to think of how we can do things differently, better, smoother, or how you can do it in order to be better. And my pitch to them was, listen, how do we get better without running harder? This is something that I promise is going to be better for the team. And I think everyone loved it. We had parents renting houses coming up, taking their vacation, helping out. It just became this really cool thing. And then it was a tradition the whole time I was at Newbury Park. And then we even had the girls come a year later, where we had a mom stay with the girls. I stayed with the boys, and we did girls and guys houses for a month. And it was like, when you're 15, 16, 17 years old and you're spending a month with your best friends in the mountains, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, you know? So it was pretty fun, but we trained pretty good up there, and the physiological benefit does help a little bit. It's not the break, that it's not the hump that put us, over like to winning the national championship, but it was a piece of the puzzle I thought was pretty unique. So
So how do you get better without running harder and breaking down like the programs that grind these kids out? And
it's doing all the little things, number one, if you go to altitude for a month, all the research and studies show from all the best people I've ever talked to in the world is like you get that physiological benefit when you're close to 7,000 to 7,500 feet. So to me, like a Boulder, Colorado didn't make sense. Like you can't go to 5,000 feet. We wanted to go to 7,000. The lake is 6,900 feet at Big Bear, so it's pretty much 7,000, and we run, and our houses are above seven. So it's like, let's go for a month. Well, yes, it's the red blood cells and different things you're going to get from that and the benefit quickly. But that the team unity, that's one thing. But it's doing all these other things, like all of our supplemental training we started implementing in our program, our hip strengthening, glute strengthening, ankle mobility. We were a complete program. We had doubles 3 days a week for our top guys and girls. Not everyone ran, but most of it was like a 3 mile shakeout run. We would do a supplemental training at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then we would go to school, and then we'd have another practice in the afternoon. Only 3 days a week. We didn't do it every day, but I just think when we started doing these injury prevention things, we ran on soft surfaces. We didn't even run from school. I mean, I basically banned running from school because there's a concrete jungle. So we had volunteer parents and kids that were able to drive to locations with our teams, and we would run nothing but soft surfaces. I mean, just a lot of the little things, and the way my training is, and talk about the the physiology side of it. In my eyes, it's like it's all progression. I think a lot of these coaches, they just do base mileage. And I've said this before in other interviews I've done. Like I've heard coaches say, "Oh, if a kid runs 800 miles over the summer or 1,000 miles, that's all he needs to do. It's just about putting in the miles over the summer." I completely disagree. I think it's touching all systems. We do actual speed developmental stuff year round. We do anaerobic stuff almost year round, but it's all progressive. What we're doing in July is nothing like we're doing in November. And it's a progressive. It takes your body 12 weeks for adaptation to adapt to training. So if you start doing it in November or September, it's too late. Like, so all these little things, I treated them like pros, but didn't train them like pros. And I think it opened their eyes to running in a lot of ways. I think we got a lot of belief, and I think physiologically we just got really fit and just did things right, in my eyes, and that's kind of what put us over the edge.
well, that's a really important breakthrough that you're tapping into here, because we've had this flawed and dated traditions in endurance training that have been dragging on for 60 years now. And even today, they're still around. And I probably you'd be more expert to comment on this than me, but like, the college system where they take these high school talented athletes and they get in there and they increase their mileage because that's what you're supposed to do when you go to college, and they get injured and spit out the back, which was my experience at UC Santa Barbara. I was a pretty good high school runner,
Yeah.
just under the Sean Brosnan cutoff with my
Nice.
with my 419. But I went up there and was sick and injured 5 seasons in a row because I couldn't handle it. The progression was completely ill-informed and not applied properly to the individual. So that's one credit that you deserve there, is like you took these kids from whatever level of uh motivation, talent, baseline standing when they show up in ninth grade and figured out how to get the best out of them without those common setbacks that happen, especially in the endurance sports of trying really hard and getting cooked and not showing your talent.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know, there's so many different things you can do and obviously train different ways, but you see it all the time, it's like the one thing I will say is my athletes that went to like NAU, Northern Arizona University, I feel like, oh, we succeeded so good. They did so well because the program's real similar to me. It's like the perfect progression. I felt like from Newbury Park, what we did with our top elite high school kids, or even like, our top 10 kids, if they went there, I feel like the progression was perfect. Now, I've had athletes go to other programs, and I think it's like now they're dropping back because they're just not using the tools that I feel like we gave them in order to keep progressing and so forth. And that's fine. I mean, you pick schools for different reasons. It's not always athletics, and you have to look at it like, even holistically, like, okay, if I wasn't running, would I be happy here? Is this what I want to do? If my job, my career, whatever it is. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's like everyone always assumed we ran 90-mile weeks. I mean, they still say it. I still see people who say that. Yeah, my top guys by their senior year were running in the 60s. They were. I mean, that's a decent amount of mileage, but again, we progressed to that, and not everyone did. Colin Solomon wasn't a super high mileage guy. I mean, he wasn't really over 60 that often in high school, and he's the national record holder for the 5K in cross country. He went 3:56 in the mile in high school, and it's like again, there was other stuff that we did. We always took one day a week off. I mean, towards their senior year, maybe they did a shakeout. Like on a Sunday when you can't have practice, they might run 15, 20 minutes. Like that's it. But like we didn't run 7 days a week. And I even know, like, even at NAU, they don't even always run 7 days a week. You need those programs. Like one of the pros that I'm coaching right now is a really good miler, like, high, super elite. And like, I give him planned days off. Like it's still part of the program where like, but he's coming from a different college program that I would probably coach like. I think his coach is an amazing coach, but like now it's like he's getting used to doing this speed year round, and he loves it. I'm hoping it's going to work, because I'm coaching him, into this next year and hopefully beyond. But like, I don't know. I just think there's so many things you can do as a coach, but like, I just looked at things individually too. Not all my athletes had the same training, and a lot of coaches disagree with that. And the team unity, I would change things all the time and be like, okay, you're doing this, you're doing this. I tried to get their attributes and make the best out of it. It drove me crazy. It took a lot of time me personally, but I just felt like if I'm gonna do this high school thing, like when I'm gonna be, I want to dominate. Like, and that's just the mindset I had, and it worked out. I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, you deserve so much credit there, and that's what I think is missing in the coaching ranks is the coach is willing to go to that next level, like you did with your kids there. I remember that anecdote from the COVID times when you couldn't gather as a team, and so what did you have 3 different meetings during the day, going from what were the times of the workouts,
Yeah,
the
because
the,
we
m-
could
the
only
miniature
practice
groups
with
that
10
showed up?
kids at a time, and my wife was an assistant coach. So we didn't have a big team, so we lucked out. So I'd have like 6 a.m. practice, then I had 2:30 practice, and then I had like a 5 p.m. practice. And it was like I would go from, because I could go, but the kids couldn't mix. So it was like it got hectic. It just got so hectic. But like, and then I wasn't sleeping. And then like I was waking up because I was teaching online because I was a full-time teacher at Newbury Park at this point. And like I'd wake up in the middle of the night. I mean, one of the stories in the book was like I wanted to find better spots to run where people weren't harassing us. Even though we were following all the rules, people would still get mad because we were with a group of 10 kids. So I was like looking for trails with a flashlight. I'm not kidding. In Newbury Park, Westlake, all that area. And I found this one 800-meter trail that was about a mile in of like in Thousand Oaks. I'm like, this is perfect. And like nobody was even in. And it was just like, that's like, I probably stressed myself out so much, but like, and then we put on races in Arizona. People gave me heat on that. I was like, listen, we're not breaking any rules. It's through a club, but it was hard. But 2021 was like, look, it all paid off. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was kind of funny to learn about all the criticism that you faced, I guess, from, excelling beyond people's expectations or comfort level. And I wonder what your insights are about that. Is it sort of like the crabs in the bucket where the other coaches and the general running community wants to figure out ways to pick holes in what you're doing, even gossiping about, oh, they must be running so many miles, or weren't there some people whispering about doping on high school kids, otherwise they couldn't go that fast, and all the other nonsense. My favorite one being that there was someone hiding in the bushes trying to photograph you to show that you were breaking the rules to get Newbury Park in trouble, like,
Yeah,
and you
we had that.
recognize the
I mean, I
person
had
as
that
a
a bunch of times, you
coach or
know.
something.
I had a picture. We had
A
a
bunch of
picture sent to my
times.
school with me and my wife saying that I was working out with one of my athletes. I'm like, my wife is 35. Like, she's not a high school. I was like, that's a compliment for her
It was a
because she looked,
compliment.
yeah, it looks really young. She looked young in the picture, and I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. But there's a guy I consider a friend of mine, John Capriati. He's like he was one of the head guys at Nanke for years that I've got to know, you know, as Newbury Park progressed. And you know, his son was a high school runner, and you know, we just connected a lot. I still, you know, talk to him today. It's at some extent. He said to me once, he goes, listen, Sean, when I took this job at Nanke, you know, because he basically ran, you know, Nanke running North America, I think all over the world. He's like, like Phil Knight told me, the criticism will be unreal. It's just going to be unreal. And like I was like, oh, you're exactly right. Because it's like, you know, another coaching friend of mine in New York once told me, he runs this running camp in New York that I go to every year. He said to me, he goes, Sean, once my team was sixth at nationals, he told me, he goes, you're going to find out who your coaching friends are now. Now you're going to find out, because all of a sudden it's like, oh, he does this, he does that. And it's like, what happened? You were my friend last year when we were no good. And now it's like, you know, and I find that the coaches that are very successful, regardless if they do it the way I would do it training, like Doug Souls, who was at, in Temecula at Great Oak, and then he's now in Utah winning titles. We always had a mutual respect, and I consider him a friend even till today, because he knows the criticism. I know the criticism because he would win nationals and get the same thing. And there's other coaches that get the same that I know. It's like you always found that the successful coaches, it's like the ones that are really successful are usually your friends. It's like the ones that are like not quite at that level, they're mad, or I don't know. I don't know. It's just, you know, there's a famous line from Shoe Dog, the running book. I'm gonna mess it up a little, but like, you know, the bigger your success is, the bigger your target is. And that's the way I looked at it. And you have to blow that stuff off. It's just, it is what it is. And I don't know, it's a compliment. Sometimes it's like, huh, whatever, like keep saying it. It's like the only reason why you're saying it is because we're winning. Like, I don't know what else to say. So
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's a lot of ego in the coaching ranks because it's a really tough job. It's not extremely lucrative, and then by definition, you're living through the results of others. And so, if you are having a tendency to be attached to results and have the ego into the game, then you become like a monster because it's not just you, the egotistical athlete. It's a coach living through the athletes, grinding them too hard, like in your example. And I see that in the coaching model a lot, where the coach is so driven to win the conference title that they kind of disregard the best interest of the athletes, and there goes another stress fracture, and it's kind of
yeah.
like, wow, what just happened here, you know?
I mean, my athlete, and I was always proud of my athletes, like injury wise. We weren't a program that had a lot of injuries. I mean, you're gonna get them. I understand that, and like you're also going through growing pains with underdeveloped kids, and that's what like it's not like that at the pro level at all. Even the college level, when I was coaching in the NCAA, it's like it's so different, and which I like. You know, I love the pro level. I love the elite, the serious, but not that I didn't like my time in high school at all. It was amazing, but it's a different, so you have to be careful of these things. And I always thought we did a really good job of managing that, because none of my top guys and girls were really injured at any capacity. I mean, we had little things here and there, but it was like we always took care of it. And like I feel like we erred on the side of caution. But we worked hard, and we worked hard, and we were supposed to, and it was a consistent work all year. And I think that that's the main difference, and you're always going to get people that criticize. And I guess no matter what industry you work in, if it's business, if it's you're a volleyball coach, or you're, I don't know, trading stocks, you're going to get somebody that's doing something that is apparently wrong. But that's just kind of how it is, I think. So
I think it was really important when you talked about the progression, and it seems like a breakthrough in training philosophy, like I mentioned a little bit, where you mentioned like doing important aspects of training all year long, but in a manner of progression. So you're still running fast when traditionally for many, many years and decades, we've been taught that you take these chunks of the season and you run a whole bunch of miles. Like you mentioned, the coach, all you need to do is put in your 800 miles in the summer and then everything will be magical in the season. And
Right.
it seems like now possibly this is one of the attributes of the performances improving at the world level is that people are training smarter than they did decades ago. I remember reading Steve Magnus' Science of Running, where he was talking on a similar topic about how the traditional periodization model of strict base period and then strictly into the high intensity is kind of getting washed away, and even to the extent that like as I was reading it, I was getting more confused, Sean, and thinking like, well, shit, then what do we do? Because Magnus was saying like even during a single run, you can do some tempo and you can do some fast strides and then you can go really slow. And it's like, I always tried to learn, like, how am I going to train perfectly? I'm going to go really slow for 3 months and build my base. And then I'm going to throw in these specific things. But it really makes a lot of sense that you need to hone that physiology without these long breaks where you don't run a step fast because you're building a base. That's a good way to probably get injured and burnt out when it is time to start going fast, even if you do run 800 miles during the summer.
Right. No, I mean it's exactly true. So you take a typical outdoor track season, and let's say you run the 800 and the mile, the 1600 in high school. It's like all of a sudden you're going from, this base period, or just getting used to getting running faster again a little bit, and then March, all of a sudden it's March, and then you're doing really fast stuff on the track. Like it's just your risk of injury to me goes up, and it's like now your body never adapted to that training. One of the greatest coaches of all time told me once, he goes, Sean, if you want to break 4 minutes in the mile at like a high school kid, he needs to be running 28-second 200s all the time, all year. Not literally 200s, but you need to be doing that pace, because what are you going to do? When are you going to start it? It's like, I always, as a coach and in life, I always say it like, I'm always looking, like, I always feel like I don't like, we're in a, not in a rush. I guess I could look wrong, but it's like, we don't have time. Like, let's start now. And like, again, when I say progression, it's like, if we're doing 1,000 repeats, like a VO2 style workout for a high school kid, we started in July, right? Let's say 6 or 7 of them with 3 minutes rest, a real typical high school cross country workout on grass. We would start that, like, for Nico Young, I think he started it like in like, his pace was like 256 in July. But then he was running 246 in November. That's a big difference. Like 10 seconds per interval. It's like it was all progression, but like if we would have started those, like if we didn't do anything over the summer, we would have been behind. And like, people were always surprised, like what we would be doing mile repeats in the summer. I'm like, yes, but they're not the same as they're gonna be in November. And it's like, we're also running cross country. Now you get out of high school, it's a whole different world. Like you have a miler who doesn't run cross country and they're strictly 1500, 800 runner. Like it's a different progression to when you might do an indoor, mostly outdoor. Your professional season goes to September. You're running all summer long. So it's a different progression. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think the example with Steve Magnus is exactly right. I think there are so many more creative ways of doing things. And, again, there's different ways to get to the final result. I'm not going to coach like not all, there's 3 people that win Olympic medals. They all don't coach the same way, but every athlete's different, and every athlete's going to respond a little different. And like sometimes just because an athlete doesn't respond doesn't mean you can't do that. Like you have to get used to that. But it's like there's certain things in high school running that I believe are staples you have to do in order to improve. And I say that all the time. And that's the kind of how I went into Newbury Park. It was like I came in with a professional coaching attitude, like in my head anyway, and like just dumbed it down for high school, but like made sure we did things correctly in my head. And I think it worked. So
So, Sean, are people listening? Because I'm wondering why there aren't more Newbury Park type fantastic teams with dudes running in the 14s, as opposed to what we still see is a lot of mediocrity. You're the one that really pumped that theme up really well. And maybe you could talk about how your 420 had a life of its own and you had to trademark it. But I knew what you were saying right from the beginning. For those of you unfamiliar, he said 420 for a high school miler just really isn't that fast. And then people took that and ran with it for years because generally speaking, that's a pretty highly accomplished runner who trains hard and is dedicated to the sport and all that. But I still don't see this massive evolution in performance or even in coaching strategy.
Well, I actually think since Newbury Park, it's gotten. I mean, there's a lot of variables. The new shoes are insane. The super spike, the road shoe, it's absolutely insane. Great for recovery, but it is making people faster. My athletes had it towards the end. Nico never had the super shoe in high school. It wasn't out yet. Like, people running will know what I mean when I'm saying that. But I'm seeing a lot of individual like results that are crazy. I haven't seen the teams yet that are just dominant like that. And I think listen, I think I know some personally really good high school coaches that are like amazing that I think could do this. It's like, but a lot of it's the same thing. It's like, I don't have the time that you had. It's like, well, I didn't have the time either. I just made it. Like when I was sleeping 3, 4 hours trying to do everything, because it's like, I told the kids, and I say this in my book, I was like, and I believed it. And you could say it's not true because I don't know what these other coaches do, but I told my athletes, I said, no coach is going to work as hard as I work for you guys. So you have that confidence. And I promise you, if you do everything I say, then it's my fault, not your fault. And like that, and that's the way I always looked at it. If something went wrong, it's like, okay, what did I do? I do find it funny though, when a lot of the criticism is like, oh, it's the athletes that are running fast, not the coach, which is 100% true. But when things go wrong, it's always the coach's fault. Like it's like, okay, pick the results here, because people like to criticize me and they're like, "Oh, you take all the credit." I was like, I don't know. What do you mean to take the credit? Like I'm proud of my kids, like that ran fast, and like yes, this was a team effort. Like yes, they ran it. Of course they did. I got criticized when we won the national championship in 2019 by a certain group of coaches for going up on the stage and getting the trophy with them. Which, by the way, was Nanki telling me, Sean, go up on the stage with your athletes. I'm like, okay. So one of the coaches didn't come on the stage out of the three teams that they got the awards. One of them, I did, and so did another team that was out there. And it was like, I was like, that's what you're criticizing me for? Like, come on, like let's like I was proud to share it with them. And like I think they were proud to share it with me. And I think that's how it is. It's a team effort because I'm gonna take fault in the athletes running poorly because if they're doing what I'm saying and they're not running well, you could be a bad coach and be like, oh, mentally they're not into it. Well, figure it out. It's your job to figure it out with them because that's my commitment to them. And that's how I am. And anyway, I think there's been a big progression over the last few years. Like individually, you see some really fast times, and I think kids are exposed to more training online as a lot of private coaches. And unfortunately, I'm not opposed to private coaches because like I think sometimes you get a high school coach that just is a teacher at a school and they just coach the program it's hard when you just and that's the school you're slated to go to and you just don't have a great environment to run fast. So kids are choosing private coaches and there's so many elite opportunities for high school kids now. They can travel across the country if you can get the means to do that. And some of them get NIL deals where they now can get flown across the country from these sponsors, and it's all legal now. And they're going to great races. They have better opportunity. One thing in Newbury Park, we didn't race a lot. Like I've noticed last year, certain kids just racing every other weekend, like grinding, like sub 4. I'm like, this is insane. Like Colin broke 4 minutes indoors. That was his indoor race, and then outdoors we prepared to run like really fast at Arcadia, which is a big high school meet for the 3200, and then we ran a mile at Prefontaine and like he ran 3:56. I just felt like you can progress and develop more in training than sometimes racing. I think sometimes these high school coaches just rely on racing for training, and we never did that. So
Oh, sure. I mean, it's ridiculous to go and travel around and have all the other stressors of being a high school student and studying. And I remember my friend's daughter who had a great high school career, but in the middle of the cross country season, the team decided to fly out to across the country to New York City to run in a meet there, and then fly back and resume their training right where they picked up, and then back to
Right.
the invitational meets with it was like it was nothing. And it's like, if you're going to have a high school kid fly across the country, run their hearts out, and fly back, that's a complete disruption and interruption of the
Right.
progression that you talk about. And I think athletes make this mistake at all levels, even elites, when they're, you know, trying to squeeze in too much due to whatever economic incentives and things that take their eye off the big prize at the end.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I agree. It's like, we would get offers all the time that go to races. We'll fly you out. We would turn them down. But I just think that, like, you have to pick your battles wisely, and figure that out. And if you could perform when you pick those battles wisely, and you can perform on those days, obviously it's a great thing. During cross country with my top guys and girls, we wouldn't race for 4 to 5 weeks. And that's like unheard of in high school. Like, coaches were like, "How do you get your kids to do that?" I was like, "What do you mean? We just do it." Like, they know it's good for them. Like, we wouldn't run the county championship because it didn't count as a qualifier or anything. So I would run my JV kids and give them an opportunity to run the varsity race. And some coaches got mad at me for that, but I'm like, I have JV kids that run 4:18 in a mile. I want them to run a varsity race. So it was like our way of giving back too. So they didn't see that, but not racing for 5 weeks midseason across country seemed crazy to some people, but I think it proved to be a good recipe for my guys. So
Did they win the county championships?
I don't think they won. They were like top two or three. I'm not sure if we
In the
won, but
mix.
yeah, almost.
Fantastic.
But like, people would gun for that, and I was like, I don't understand. We have league championships like a week later. I was like, what you have to run in California. Then we have CIF prelims, CIF finals, then the state meet, then the national meet. I have to run my kids in that. So I was like, I can't race. And then, some coaches would just be like, well, it's tradition. I'm like, I get it, I get it. So, and we just never did it. So
Yeah, I mean, the traditions are important, and being a California high school athlete, the state meet, and you buy the program, and you can see the past champions, and there's so many Olympic gold medalists that have showed up at the state meet: Marion Jones, Allison Felix, all the great distance runners, Ryan Hall. And then when I learned that the Young brothers were gonna skip the state meet when they were seniors and running these other races, I was kind of disappointed. I was like, man, I want to see those guys up on the board with all the best guys. But what you just mentioned is like, if an athlete wants to go compete in the state meet and follow the traditions of the 100-year-old competition, they have to go to league prelims, league finals, qualifying for
analysis.
the section, another qualifying. And so it's basically like this giant commitment. And my disappointment was recalibrated when I saw what was the 5,000 record at UCLA? Was that Lex or Leo running like
Lex.
13:35 or something? Yeah, so
Yep.
Lex runs 13:35 in the 5K to break the all-time national record, and it's like, "Oh, that's why you didn't run the state meet. You had much bigger fish to fry." And a coach who saw that vision, because I think 99% of California State high school track and field coaches would wanna see their kid go win the state meet, but it's like he would have won by a straightaway, and then could have kept going for another mile at the same pace that he just won the state meet. So it's like, what's the point?
Right. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it's a double-edged sword. People are like, "Hey, you could win the state meet with just distance kids in track." I go, but now I'm tripling every one of those kids. So they're running 3 races, like, 5 weeks in a row for what? Like, what are we doing? And, like, again, to me, it's like, I always found it funny how everyone was like, "You're so about winning," but I wasn't about winning because we could have won the state meet in track, and we didn't do it. But, like, we chose Colin to go run like, basically an experience of a lifetime, the Prefontaine. He was in the Bowerman Mile, which is extremely, I mean, he got into it because he was a high school kid and he was running so fast and trying to break the high school national record, which still stands with Alan Webb. But like, he got in that race. Like, he'll never get that chance to do that ever again. And like, Lex and Leo actually never ran. A lot of it was because of COVID. They canceled the California State Meet 2 years because of COVID, but they had like a Southern Section Championship. And the commissioner at the time of CIF got really mad at me and called me and was like, "What do you think, you're better than all?" I was like, "You know what? You guys canceled this thing on us 2 years in a row. We're not going to run a regional. we're going to go to Tennessee and run this elite race and we're going to have fun. And like, it was ended up being fine. And we went back and forth in some emails and it was actually good. But like, he was annoyed because he thought I was like too good. Not that I thought they were too good. It was like, I just wanted other opportunities for them. And it all worked out. Like you said, Lex broke the national 5K record. Colin ran 3:56, one of the all-time fastest miles, and like an opportunity of a lifetime. And like, that's the only reason we did that. And then one time, Lex and Leo actually had like a family vacation that was planned for months and months and months to like Sweden. And that was why they couldn't do it. We would have gone that year, but I said, you know what? Let's run these other elite races. Who cares if people criticize it? And then Lex ran like 4:01 in the mile, and it was fine. Like they ended up, we didn't have to go win a state title to prove it to anybody that we were better. So that's how I looked at it.
Yeah, you're calling to a higher purpose, which was the personal development of the athlete and their
Right.
long-term, uh, you know, prospects in the sport, especially when you're talking about elite athletes. And a lot of coaches can't answer to that. They've ruined magnificent talents by grinding them out too hard at a young age.
Right.
I want to challenge you a little on this wonderful talk about not placing limitations, believing in yourself, believing being able to do something great. I can reflect back to being that young runner who was so dedicated, and my heart and soul was into this sport. My training partners, we were all just all in. We loved it. We talked about running and practiced and trained as hard as we could. Of course, we didn't have that kale for progression, so we would find ourselves sick and injured a lot. But there's also a point where the gun goes off and you're out there running over the hills and the challenges of the cross country course when you're at your limit, right? And I don't see how much mindset can overcome whatever your physiological competency is at a certain point. And so you had this, beautiful camaraderie. You were there to support the guys. I still want to put in some missing pieces to how you can get so many kids to run so fast. You trained them well, you made them believe themselves, but I don't know if I'm asking the question correctly, but I thought I was a pretty dedicated and competitive guy, and I made it only so far because my arm started burning on the last lap. So the answer is no, I couldn't have broken 4:20 in that race, no matter how much I believe that it wasn't that fast or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
what's that magic element that comes in where you can stop placing limitations on yourself, like you say on the back cover of the book, but then actually see this amazing breakthrough in physical performance on the stopwatch in a sport that's so difficult. I mean, if you were a tennis coach or a golf coach, I'd say, hey, Sean, tell us how you help calm the athlete's mind so they can sink more putts. And I'd be listening carefully because there is so much noise and so much technique involved, but this is like pure suffering, and
Right.
the stopwatch doesn't lie.
Well, I mean, you're exactly right too. A few things that I've always like, how I am. Well, first of all, I think that you find these moments in training. There's moments, and this is number one. I think there's moments in training where it's like you train as a runner to basically run with pain. And how do you do that? Right now, there's a science behind it. You could talk about lactic acid and acidity and all this stuff. I mean, a line I always use is you got to teach your body to run with acidity. Like, you just have to do that, right? So the thing is, I feel like it's a learned skill, but it's like, you find these moments in training where like you see it in an athlete. And that's why I like to develop in training, not racing, where you do something that you did not think you can do in training. It's almost like a race, right? That brings a moment out in a kid, in an athlete, an adult, and anyone, even a college athlete, where it's like, man, I can start doing this because I had that happen to me. And I know that feeling of like, all of a sudden I'm more confident. And it's like, obviously that's number one. But like, I realize not everyone's going to be an All American. Not everyone's going to be a state champion. Not everyone is capable of breaking 4:10, 4:20, 4:30, whatever, 5 minutes for girls, maybe in the mile. And I know there's physical capabilities, but I'm rooted with the belief that like we set these limitations. that comment that I said when I was doing an interview once, I was like, 420 is not fast for a high school mile. It's just not fast. That's exactly how I said it. What I meant was like, I have had coaches ridicule me. They'd send me DMs and they're like, how dare you? I have kids that could never do that. Like, who do you think you are? I said, listen, do you think it's fast? So like, yes. I said, well, then that's it. Stop thinking it's fast. Because why did all these athletes break 4 minutes in the mile this same year that Roger Bannister did it, 1954? There's a reason they did it. And like people, the ones who criticize me for this are the ones that won't open their mind because we are absolutely capable of a lot more than we think. It doesn't mean everyone could be Olympians, doesn't mean everyone could be national champions, but I think everyone could be a little bit better. This camp that I go to every year in upstate New York, and I always speak at, work at, have a great time. One of the coaches there once told me, he goes, "You think everybody can be good, Sean?" I go, "You know what? I think everyone could be better." And I think you could always improve. And like, you got to find your Olympic moment. And I think that's what we do. We find our Olympic moment. Like, maybe in high school, it's a kid running 1550. Maybe it's a boy running a 1630, a girl breaking 19. And that moment is like Colin breaking 4 minutes. It's still the same. So to me as a coach, I find those moments for those athletes and we celebrate them. And even as pros, I don't mean like we have to be like rod, like cheering, playing music, high five. I'm not a very like run up and hug you type coach. It's like, listen, you find those moments and like you could see it in a kid's eyes. Like when you pull a kid aside and go, "Do you know what you just did right now?" Like that was amazing. And it's like they light up, and it's like it's a different kid after that one conversation. And I learned that from watching pros, from watching the best college coach, the best pro coaches work with professionals, and even get in their head. And I feel like that's maybe part of it. Or you could say the secret, or it's just creating that atmosphere all the time. That it's like it's a positive reinforcement of like your training, even when things are bad. It's like, listen, you're supposed to feel like crap. This is September. We're not supposed to feel good. Like I rather you, and then when you fail in a workout, it's like that's good. Because now you're not going to fail the next 3 times we do this. It's like I don't know. That's just the way I am as a coach, and I feel like we just had those moments. We found those moments in training, and it's connecting with the athlete. My famous line all the time, and again, I get ridiculed for it. I say, "There's two comedians in a room. They tell the same joke. One of them is funny, and the other one's not." Why? It's the delivery, it's the connection with the audience, with the people, it's the way you say it. You could tell a kid, "Great job," but looking in their eyes and having that connection is different. And I don't care what level you're at, it is different because when you have that connection and you talk, like even one of the athletes I'm working with now, I have such a good connection with him. And it's like, I can tell this is going to be a good relationship coaching an athlete, and he's a professional. And it's like, that's important. And I feel like that's going to break you to that next level. And I think that's what we did. And I think I did that. And like even when I'd watch my wife coach some of the athletes sometimes, and it's not a knock to my wife because she's amazing. She's a two-time NCAA champion when she was in college, an amazing runner herself. But like I'd be like, "Oh, don't you're missing you're missing the opportunity to go give them something. Go to," and I'd be like, "Tanya, go talk to them now, now." And like I just feel like those cues I've always been good at, and it's like I just that's what we did. If that makes any sense. I know I kind of rambled on, but that's where I think the big difference is in making a team great. I really do.
Oh, no, it's huge, and we're talking about high school kids here where it's incredibly huge. Just even the idea of you stepping up to the front of the meeting room with the parents and showing the level of belief and commitment that you had. If I ever had that type of intervention in my career as an athlete, I would have responded to it tremendously because it's just very, very rare. So, you set the tone from day one. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense because I think it probably would apply even at the highest level of elite performance. I mean, those people struggle from self-doubt too, and they need people in their corner to give them the perspective. It's okay to get beaten. It's okay, Colin Solomon, Gatorade Athlete of the Year, to get fourth place on your own team sometimes. Yeah, fantastic. You gotta keep setting that perspective, especially with really driven, competitive athletes who, by definition, are going to have their ego involved in the mix because they're committed so much to it.
It's funny. It's like I read a lot about manifesting and all this stuff. It's always been something I've been very interested in, and like I just think how people's mind and belief can change like outcomes in life or just thinking positive. And it's like, even an athlete when they joke about being like, "Oh my God, I'll never do that." Don't joke about that because that now you just that seed is planted. Like, and I'm dead serious about it. Like, I talk to my athletes about that. It's like you're joking and I know it's funny and it's like, but once you do that, now it's like, to me, it's like saying the word hope. I hope I do this. Well, you're not going to do it if you hope you do it. I'm not saying you have to be like cocky and be like, I'm going to break the world record. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but like, that's not a word of belief. You got to really start believing. It's like, why not die trying? Like my biggest thing is, I always say, why not? Why not? Why not think more? Why not think higher? What's the harm in that? Like, and that's how I start. I feel like, especially at that high school level, it's like, let's really get this going, guys. And like, I like that part of coaching. I think it's important. Like I told you earlier, I had one of the most inspirational coaches of all time, Damian Martin at Adams State, one of the most successful coaches, even though it's Division II. He's amazing. We used to sit there before a hard workout, and I'd be like, man, I will run through a brick wall for this guy. And like, that's what I want to do, and that's what I want to create. If you can.
Well, you did it wonderfully, and I think you're going to have great success with your next venture. So maybe you can tell us. I know you can't tell us everything because you're about to put together a program. But what does a coach like you do when you've moved on from the high school experience and the ridiculous NCAA experience, which we can hear about in some of your other interviews? But it's
Yeah.
like, nah, we don't want to mess around with all those all that silliness. Now
Yeah.
it feels like you have some open road to coach some elite performers.
Yeah, it's always been the goal of mine, and I've come from, I feel like, the post collegiate coaching type background, even before Newbury Park, being around that. That's always what I wanted to do, and I always felt like it was going to be my best attribute as a coach. After I left Newbury Park, went to UCLA for a real quick time. I when I left there, wrote the book, like I said earlier, and it's like, well, where are my avenues? What can I do now? I had some opportunities to coach athletes individually, pros. I just didn't know if I wanted to go that route, so I really took my time. What is happening now? So basically, is in January the goal. Everything is getting set up. I'll have a pro group, and it'll consist of men and women. Distances of all difference from anything from the 800 to 10K, pretty much. Like most pro groups out there, that and we'll have a company sponsor, and we're getting all that wrapped up right now, and all those details hopefully will be out by December. And like I said, I'm coaching a few athletes. I've said this before, that the plan is to pull them over into this pro group. And yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. And the goal is 2028, the LA Olympics, and then 2032, the Olympics are going to be in Australia. And that's going to be the goal. And we'll have a few internationals, like maybe some Europeans on the team with Americans, so that, to me, in my head, will make a really good training partner. Because if you have a guy who's from Ireland or UK training with a US guy, now you're not all competing for the same Olympic spot, because there's only three spots for the 1500, 800, 10K, 5K steeplechase, whatever your distance event is in the US. It's like, I want to try to work it out that I have that balance of like two 15 guys that are training on my squad, but one's from, over across the pond, and the other one is in the US, and you're able to train together without having that, fight for the same US team. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I'm excited to get that started, and yeah, hopefully sooner than later we'll make that announcement. I don't think it's going to be anything like super formal, but once things get wrapped up contractually, I'll be able to announce more on that. So
And you're going to be based in either your Big Bear Lake, where you used to take the kids, or Flagstaff.
yeah, we're still deciding. Big Bear Lake or Flagstaff has come up, so we're trying to make that decision. As in the next like few weeks, I guess, the next month. I'm currently in Big Bear Lake right now, and I love it up here. It's just, this is where I live full time now, and it's worked great. But just trying to do what I think is best for the athletes, where most would run their best, and obviously where the sponsors want us to, because sometimes there's more exposure to other places and so forth. So.
Yeah, maybe you could detail a little bit more. I mean, we're watching these great USA and the other countries show up at the World Championships and compete, but in general life, like it's kind of strange, really, because you think like there's so much writing on our Olympic success and the broadcast is counting the medals, but then when the TV's and the meet's over, these athletes are kind of in this sort of free for all experience where you hope to get a sponsor and then hope that that sponsor has like a organized club or team based somewhere. And I was interviewing Shelby Houlihan earlier this year, visiting her up in Flagstaff, and she was saying after coming back from her suspension, like, yeah, I'm hoping to figure out a good group or place to go because right now I'm training by myself all the time. And like, here's, our best long distance runner who's just cast out and forced to fend for herself unless she can find some, sort of a random, privately funded, privately organized experience. I wonder how you feel about the American system at this point now. Obviously, you're buying into it. You're going to pull that sponsor in and create the dream of your own.
Yeah.
But they have these Olympic training centers where there's a few heptathletes down at Chula Vista that can use the facilities, but it seems like it's way kind of underfunded and underemphasized about how to support our broad prospects across track and field and distance running.
No, you're right. It's extremely difficult from even a coaching standpoint to an athlete standpoint of how do you navigate in that pro career, right? If you're an athlete graduating college, a top NCAA guy or girl, and you're trying to figure out where do I go? Like where do I do? And like the thing is there's what I'm trying to do is have a sponsored group with a shoe company, and like that's where I think there's the reason why I like it, I think there's an identity to that group. I think it becomes this like yeah, it creates an image that I want to help create with a certain company, and I think it could be really good and positive. But you're right, like, you know, where you like if you have a certain shoe sponsor, there are some groups that are independent, but here's the difficult part of that. So you're an independent. You have an athlete that runs for Adidas, one that runs for Nike, one that runs for Hoka, and like okay, so there's three different athletes there, right? And they all want to train in the same group. So how do I coach them? That's what I ran into 2 years ago. I was talking to athletes, and it's like, well, they have this really small stipend that they can pay their coach. Like sometimes it's five to $10,000. I'm like, okay, so if I have eight athletes, I'm making like $50,000. It's not like I'm getting any insurance or any. I'm just, and then if they lose their contract, I lose my money. It's just hard to do. So it's a very difficult thing. And to run professionally, sometimes we lose good athletes who never keep going, because there's top athletes right now that, they graduate and they make 30, $40,000. Like it's hard to survive on that money, so
Ja'Cory
and
Patterson, man, he was working at the warehouse, UPS, shipping boxes, the number one 400-meter runner in the world.
And he
Terrible
and he
story.
made it right, he made it because he didn't give up. But there's some people they can't, or they or ones that didn't go to school in a full ride. They have student loans, they have stuff they have to pay, and it's unfortunate, and it's like they have a little bit of debt, and it's like, I can't make it's like, the group that I'm trying to what we're getting formed, I have a baseline number that we have to pay the athletes because I just think they have to survive. Like, it's not even like they're going to be like, rolling in the dough and making tons of money and buying these huge houses, but they don't have to worry from that amount. And that's the goal. I just want that commitment. And I think we're in that direction that even, but then it comes to now I can't take a developmental athlete because there's athletes that are, because they have to be a certain level to get that amount of money, and I just can't take now. So now it just raised the bar of like, okay, now, and then the company's like, well, we want this type of athlete. I'm like, we're gonna have to pay him. Now you're talking about six figures. That's great, but you're gonna have to start paying this guy hundreds of like, I want to coach that guy too, or that woman, but like, so it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And like someone like Shelby, like I don't know her particular situation and even coaching situation at all, but like I know she's in Flagstaff kind of. I know her sister coaches at a university in Phoenix, so she might be down there sometimes. And I could be mistaken. That's just a hunch I get. So I think there's okay, so maybe there's some support that way because I know her sister Shayla, and like so that maybe that's working for them and that's amazing. But yeah, you're right. Like she's a great example. It's like, what do you do? Unfortunately, she does. I don't know if she has a shoe deal. I don't think she does. So
Still
without
looking
that,
for it.
what
So
was that?
you shoe executives watching, she just got 4th in the world
I
championships
know,
and
I know, I
still
know,
looking
and she
for a
won a
shoe
medal
deal.
indoors too. She got an indoor
And
medal
she got a
indoors.
silver. Yeah,
Yes.
amazing. Sean, I think it's the greatest comeback of all time in endurance running, track and field, because no athlete has sat out for 4 years and come back and medaled at the world stage. I mean, Donovan was injured for 3 years, pretty much, but I think it was pretty historic that she kept training and kept pushing by herself during that suspension. You can't even train with other people, and
No.
yeah, great credit to her that she's back on the world stage.
No, I know. I
Still
mean,
looking
and
for a
like
shoe deal.
it's crazy. Like this watching everything with her. No, you're right. I mean, but like so hopefully something works out for her for sure cuz like she's definitely earned it, you know. I mean, she's beating everybody, you know. She almost got a medal. It was really I was there. I was in Tokyo and
Oh,
like
really? All
yeah, I
right.
was actually in Tokyo last week and it was like
Did you have
insane.
runners that you coach that were in the worlds, or
No, no, no. My not my athlete and no, not this year. He didn't go to the Worlds this year, but
watch out?
I went there just for with the shoe company I'm dealing with and meetings and different things and just to go to the World Championships too. You know, I wanted to see and I got to spend time with Nico and his family in between his races and stuff, and that was pretty cool to see. So, I mean, I'm a huge
Oh yeah,
fan and
I gotta ask you because Nico's progression has been sensational.
yeah.
21 years old, he got ninth in the Olympic final, and I was just so happy and amazed to see this guy that I first heard about when he ran that 840 at Arcadia out of nowhere, and just an amazing progression. And then you see him in the worlds where he got was it fifth or sixth?
Fifth and
And
sixth. He ran the
yeah,
10K
yeah.
and the 5K.
He got
Yeah.
5th and 6th, and he was clearly disappointed. Like, wait a second, dude, you're coming up the ladder like no athlete. But I think he's bought into the Sean Brosnan programming starting in freshman year. Like he wants more, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
really amazing to see. What do you think about that?
I mean, no, I think he could have medaled, but like the thing is, you can do everything right in the 5 and 10K and other events too. But in the 5 and 10K, you can do everything right. But sometimes in those races, it's positioning and getting yourself. And he'll agree, I'm sure. And Mike Smith, who's coaching him, will agree too. And I'm not knocking it at all. Like he did everything he could, or he thought he could in that race. But it's like in my head, okay, here's the coach in me. I don't coach Nico Young anymore. But I wrote down every lat 400 split for the top 5 guys, and like and without doing the points, it was like Hawker went 52. Everyone else ran 54 except the guy who was fifth in the 5K final ran 55. He died. So it's like in my head, I go, okay, how do you figure out how to run 53 for that last lap? That's where the medal is. And Nico was only zero point 0.6 out in the 10K and maybe not even a half a second in the 5K, if I'm not mistaken. That's what it comes down to. It's positioning, it's getting yourself not wasting energy, not making funny moves. So like that's how I am as a coach. And that's think I'm assuming a lot of other coaches too at the elite level. But yeah, you're right. He's progressed so much. He broke the American record for the 5K outdoors. He won the 10K in the U.S. championships. He's going to be. I think he is the future of American distance running for the next 8 years. I got in trouble probably for saying this, but like I did an interview and I was like, oh, Grant Fisher will never beat Nico Young again. And so far I'm right. So, but like, and it's not a knock to Grant because he's a phenomenal athlete. America's, he won 2 bronze medals last year. He has a great situation and he obviously can, but I'm always going to side with Nico even when I'm not coaching him because I just am. I'll probably have a guy running against Nico in the next year or two. So that would be a little strange, but that's okay. I'll still be a Nico fan. You could have good competitive energy. And that's 100% because I just I close with Nico still and his family, and I think they're great people. And it's been awesome watching him, and it's pretty cool for sure.
Yeah, you did something special there, man. I'm so glad you wrote a book about it too, because right, I encourage everyone watching, listening, grab this book, whether you're a runner, an athlete of any kind, or just interested in magic tricks and peak performance like we've never seen at the high school athletic level. So, Sean, tell us how we can keep connected with you, especially when we find out about this team. Then we'll follow you all the way to the championship events and the peak performers, and of course, how to get the book and all that.
Yeah, I mean, well, the book you can get anywhere where books are sold, pretty much, online everywhere. So it's in, Barnes and Nobles, stores, Amazon, anywhere where you can get them, they have them. So that's good. And the one thing I will have to say about this book is it's like, a mix of almost like a memoir of like how I started and why I started coaching, to like the little in and outs and the inside, and even some insights from my athletes, of how we became the team we became. And I just, there's a traditional way up the coaching path. I didn't take that. I went a pretty untraditional, of where I felt like I learned was best for me. And I think that's another thing too. I want people to read this book that maybe don't run also. And it, like, hopefully it inspires them to, like, get to the next level in whatever they do. Cause that's what I always say. It's like when I watch movies and I get inspired by a basketball movie to be a better running coach, that movie did its job. And that's what I'm hoping this book can do. And give it a read, and let me know if you like it. You could find me, I'm always online. Instagram is the best. I think it's a real Sean Brosnan. That's my handle. And yeah, I'm just that's where most of my announcements will be. And I'm excited because we're getting into October in a couple days here, a few days. And as soon as we get into that, maybe about a month after that, hopefully we get things rolling, and people will know what I'm doing 100% and who I'm partnering with. And it'll be exciting news. So I'm excited for
Oh,
that. So
good luck. Okay.
yeah,
Probably by the time this is released, we'll know all about that.
yeah,
And I should give a little plug for that amazing sort of vagabond background that you had, chasing your own running dreams and also learning from the best coaches, and your important insight that like you filled up your cup from so many different resources and processed so much different information to make everything in your own coaching style, and compare contrast to a lot of people who have their one favorite mentor, or they're at one college campus for their whole career. And it was an important point that really impressed upon me, is like, we need to go out there and seek information and think critically and challenge people, which your personality has been characterized that way. Like, why are we doing it this way? Why is everyone running so slowly in high school? Well, let's talk to Sean about that.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And that'll be a nice little teaser to definitely get the book, to learn about that first stage of your life before you showed up on campus with all these big dreams and ideas shaped by the great coach you mentioned at Adams State, and spending time with other elite coaches. And boy, a lot of life experience there. Also a cool vote for, you young listeners who think that you need to follow this linear path, even if you're studying to be an engineer or whatever you're doing. Hey man, go look around and see what opportunities abound. And it might not be what you dreamed about from day one, I guess.
yeah. I mean, it's funny because, like, when I was in this weird journey of mine, and like the vagabond lifestyle, I literally would like just drive to another state, spend time with different people. And it's not for everyone, and but it was right for me. And that's where I think it is. It's like I always knew where I wanted to go with it, and I always knew my vision. And it's like when you know something, you just get that gut. It's feeling, you're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, and it is. And people can say, "Hey, that's crazy. You were all over the place. That's no good either." It's like, well, I mean, it worked for me, and that's where I think everyone has a different path, and it's, you got to take that. You got to figure out what your path is, and there's no mistakes, because you're gonna do things. And like, I've been definitely, I moved to places to go, why in the world did I come here? This is not a place for me. And I didn't last too long, and then I left. And you move on, and you figure out life, and that's what it's about. I'm a big believer in life's not about money; it's about experiences. No matter what you do in life, and that's what I love. Like, even being able to go to Tokyo last week, it's like that was a great experience in my life. That, like, I just, it's worth so much more than money, or like material things. And that's how I am. So
Fantastic. What a pleasure to connect. Sean Brosnan, the author of Beyond Fast. Go get the book, people. Thank you for listening, watching. That's a wrap.
awesome.